Okay, David Lynn is on a short stack. He has 19 blinds and a Pat Jack 9 in the big blind, facing an under the gun open. This is a very difficult decision. It's one of those hands where if you shove and get called, you have to stand pat, but you are in danger of them patting behind and you being out of the tournament.
You know, it's interesting. I've never used this nomenclature before, but I dare regard this as a coupe instead of a convertible, if you know what I mean, given the nature of the gut shot straight draw.
Instead, we see Lynn come with a call, which I assume means that he is going to break the jack and draw to his gut shot 9865.
But wants to do so for a cheaper price.
Yeah. This seems reasonable considering Jen Harman's short stack. Busting in this situation with 0% equity would be pretty disappointing. Seiver is also probably happy, will be happy the way this worked out, because he would not be able to fold the 2-4-5-8 versus the jam, I don't believe. And neither player really wants to play a flip in that situation.
Oh my goodness.
Lynn is in trouble now.
Yeah, they both made it. Lynn catching the 3 and making the 9-8-6. Seiver sliding right into an 86, which is a whole lot of hand. I'm not even sure he knows it yet, by the way.
At range. Because here, Scott Seiver has raised under the gun, and while both players draw 1, Seiver has by far and away the stronger draw 1 range. I believe for that reason that David could consider a check with a hand that's kind of in the middle part of his range at this point. He instead comes with a bet, and he is going to face a nasty decision here, as I cannot imagine Seiver just calling.
Coupe, huh, Ollie?
I mean, apparently it was convertible, but as played, we can understand. He just said, okay, I'll play for the 50K. I'll take 1. Trouble, of course, quite obvious now, as his 150 has become 765. Unlikely. A 10-7 would just be happy to flat the 150 and bluff catch.
Correct. He makes a nice laydown.
Yeah.
That is a difficult fold.
Yeah.
So Krella has an easy open here. Not only is it an okay hand, possibly even an okay bluffing hand, but with Jen Harman having folded pre and Sir Watts having folded pre, he can put tremendous pressure on the players behind him, who have to play very conservatively in this spot.
Mindful of Harman's short stack. Nothing of much interest, although Ausmus, yeah, he's 5'6", defendable.
Pretty standard defender to defend to draw 2. The question is, will he avoid the situation because of those short stacks, as I made reference to earlier. But no, he's getting in there. And Krella's going to have an interesting decision. If he's going to see the draw 2 in front of him. Does he want to draw 2 and play 3-6-8 versus a draw 2? Or does he want to bluff? It's a very reasonable hand to snow with.
I would agree. This seems like a very natural candidate in the face of a draw 2 to stand pat. Krella does exactly that. And we've got our first snow of this final table.
So Krella's playing the game. I mean, he's looked very comfortable. Ausmus has made a hand. Now, if Jeremy could see his hand, he would happily check here. This is a hand, though, that may want to consider a lead, thinking that that the player pats a lot of weak hands like jacks and even some queens when he draws 2 in the big blind. Jeremy does look like he's going to find a lead.
The stage is set here, gentlemen. When we block 3 8s in our hand in particular, and we know how difficult it would be for Jeremy to produce a 7 or an 8.
Would Ausmus risk busting 6 with 2 shorter stacks at the table?
1 million.
And Krella goes for it. I love this guy. This guy's
Is the
playing
sizing
the game.
big enough?
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't shove here.
Well, he earlier played a similar size when he did 2-hop that 8-7 against Watson. So this just may be, in his mind, the right size. It is certainly credible.
Even when he was looking at his cards again and snapped them
Wow,
down.
he gets it through.
Oh, man.
What a play.
Bravo.
Oh, boy.
Loving this Jonathan Krella. Jonathan, right?
A perfect jack for Watson.
But also a difficult hand to play. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. One of those hands where if you jam and pat and get pat behind, you are dead. It might be a little tempting for Watts to flat here and break the jack to try to make a premium. I'll be curious to see what he thinks about it.
All in.
Oh.
He chooses the aggressive route. This is not a fun decision for David Lynn, knowing that if he doubles up Watson here, he is now going to be in the short stack himself.
So
But I
there
think
it
it's
is.
just too much hand.
Call, pat in front, and it's time to draw 1 and hope for the 3-4-5.
Turn them up.
Note that the 9 and the 10 would work. So they're on their backs. Watson giving Lynn a look.
We see he's made it.
Yeah, that he has. And with that, Sir Watts, Mike Watson's tenure here at this final table comes to a close as he adds the most modest of final table payouts to his career tournament earnings of over $28 million. We tack on 68,672 bucks.
Jeremy showing good ICM awareness there, I would say.
Harman showing a 9.75 deuce draw in the big blind. She'll be defending this one.
Now, contrasting to earlier, I don't think Krella's hand makes a particularly good snow here. Even though he does have that gut shot draw in the pair, he still has a holding that could make a monster and doesn't necessarily even need a monster to win a pot in position, right? So he wants to be wary of over bluffing, and I think this hand plays a little bit better as a draw.
And it's not that we think it's such a phenomenal draw, but in position, there'll be some optionality. 1v1.
Looks like he agrees. Jen has hit her hand.
Ooh, and look at this. She's pipping as we go down to the fifth card. 9765 deuce versus 97653. Value available for Harman. 370 in the middle. 910 effective.
Interestingly, if Jen elects to bet, she'll probably win less than if she checks. Because she'll probably choose a small size, thinking her big blind defense range is weak, and Krella will just call. Actually, she's reaching for a lot of chips.
225.
But I think Krella would bet larger here if it checked to him.
So this 225 capping her upside in terms of the line chosen?
Well, if she could see the actual hand, maybe she would make a different decision. I think this bet's super reasonable.
9-7.
Little
Krella
does she
also
know.
has a 9-7.
976. 976 deuce.
She has it by 1.
I guess the crux of what I'm saying, Ali, is that Krella, by virtue of having raised from earlier position, can choose larger sizes than Jen can. So if she knew his exact holding, she would prefer to check and let him bet because he'll probably choose a bigger size. And Seiver picks up a very nice hand. It is a little tricky if someone snap jams and pats behind, and pats either in front or behind you with this 10 with this premium wheel draw underneath it. But for these shallow stacks, you typically just get broke if your 10-7 is beat.
Yeah, I think we live with a cooler.
Yeah, it would be a disaster to break. Oh, and Jen picks up a tempting hand. It's going to be tough to get away from this, knowing how desperate Scott will be to find hands in this situation. He does shove 15 blinds. This is a little more than we've seen from some other players so far. She only is playing 12 blinds herself. This is a difficult decision.
Well, if Seiver indeed pats,
then I think she could actually draw. It would be close, though. She beats all 10-9s and jacks, if he has any jacks. We're going to find out what she thinks, because I do believe Seiver will stand pat. Unless one of the blinds were to wake up and make this a three-way affair.
But also, just being the chip leader, you have this hammer lock on the table, so...
Right, you don't need to play this hand, right? There's no bounty here. There's no incentive for you to be the one to bust a player.
Exactly.
and regardless of outcome, the landscape remains the same in terms of its favorability for you to continue to pick up chips. Nevertheless, he says call.
He does call, and he will stand pat, and let's see what Scott does, because Scott is going to be sick if he breaks the winner here. This looks super strong from Krella.
And Krella's never going to condense his range or announce the strength of his hand by putting in more chips out of the small with just Lynn left to act behind him. And, you know, a nominal additional amount remaining for...
One thing's for sure.
Oh, did he say pat?
Nice job, Scott.
And now Jen can draw live to triple up.
Jen has to break here,
I
right?
think
100%.
Yeah, this one is to me, this one is the easiest decision of the three.
Yeah.
Note, by the way, that Seiver has locked up the side.
That is a very, very nice decision from Scott. I wonder if he was thinking about what he would do while Krella was in the tank pre-flop.
I mean, this is fucking
10-9.
10-7.
Wow, Scott's super thrilled.
Wow.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't fucking break this one.
And we will see what
was
Scott would have
close.
caught, because that is the card that Jen is going to catch.
Drum roll, please, to the 9 perfect. Jen will squeeze, and
Scott
I don't
is
think she liked what she
thrilled.
saw.
Thank you.
Good game, Jen.
Good game, Jen.
Lose Jen.
What a massive swing this is now, because Scott's nearly tripled
I had
that.
him beat at a 10-9-4.
Difficult because he's getting such incredible pot odds to draw to the 10, but what happens when you make your hand and then you're facing a river bet and you're in the same terrible ICM spot, right?
Right. And to lose another few $100,000 on the river here could be very devastating. He currently has a stack that can still reshove and shove. He
By the
does
way,
decide it's worth it.
The landscape has shifted somewhat between the sort of pre-Seiver triple up to the post.
Sure.
You know, and Krella's presumed adjustment here should skew more toward him having a bit more hand.
Yeah, he can't be quite as wild as he was before, right? And at the same time, the pay jumps are only getting bigger, and Lynn does have a very short stack.
That's right.
But Jeremy is going for it. We know that he is here to win bracelets and Player of the Year, and he has gotten into a dicey situation.
Oh, no.
He certainly cannot bet, but he will face a bet.
I mean, this just becomes a question of how many chips is he going to lose.
I think so too, especially knowing how wild Krella has been.
Yeah, he can't. He can't.
No, he's going for the whole thing, guys. This is.
Interesting.
Oh, no, he
never
makes
mind.
the call, and we're going to be
Wow.
down to 3-handed.
Wow.
Good game, bud.
Krella's image worked
Yeah,
in his
game.
favor.
This was so much fun getting to play this with you.
As we see Scott sticking with the 250 open size.
Smooth draw 2.
I have to imagine we're going to see some button limps out of Scott at some point.
If they get more shallow, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call. Just
Krella
the
will
fact that
defend.
keeping pots a little bit smaller and also just playing as many hands as possible in position.
Right.
If he thinks he has the edge is just something that really behooves him.
Particularly if he feels like he has good live reads on Krella on the river, right? If he feels he can make good river decisions, then he's much more incentivized to grind him down rather than play a big pot for it all. Which I'm sure Scott does feel like is a substantial strength of his.
I have
So-
to say,
King low versus a pair of 8s here. Go on.
you know, seeing Scott on the precipice of setting, this is very close to setting history right now, winning his 3rd bracelet already of the summer.
It would be his 7th overall.
Yeah, so given that, I still kind of find myself rooting for Krella just because of that speech he gave.
150.
You're such a softie.
Yeah, Krella strikes me as a guy who doesn't fold for the minimum that often. Like, he just ends up flicking it in.
I hope so. I mean, I think that just from a basic poker theory level, you have to call with hands like this.
Yeah. There are players who see this bet and they fold too much, and then there are players who see this bet and they just always flick it. Wow.
And
That was
Scott
surprising.
kind of outlevels his foe on that hand.
That he does. And I don't know whether or not you guys have noticed what I just noticed, but cast your eyes to the top of the screen where we have ourselves a new chip leader
In only
for the
3
first
hands,
time.
Scott has gone 3 for 3. So if you're going to be playing someone that you feel has an experience and a
250?
skill edge over you, I think you want to play slightly tighter and much more aggressive. That means not giving chips away with weak hands like that, and it means 3-betting hands like this, I think. 2, 4, 6, 10, certainly worthy of a 3-bet. I would like to see Krella start using a larger sizing, but I think he needs to punish these. Scott has not folded a single button yet. He needs to open it up a little bit and play bigger pots. In this particular case, Scott has a hand that can
800.
easily continue. So he does increase his 3-bet size to 800, perhaps recognizing that 700 was not the right size earlier.
Seiver has more than enough kit with which to continue, so he does flat, and we will play for 175.
Absolutely.
Pre-draw.
Last time Krella got the better of this 1-1 confrontation, hitting his man. This time he has the worst of it again. But these hands do run relatively close.
Yep.
Scott just has the playing advantage in which if he hits inside and actually makes a 9 low, obviously we see he has his opponent drawing dead.
No, but this is a good example of what you're talking about. This is a fairly
Oh my
even
gosh.
matchup.
Uh-oh.
Guys, they've both gotten there
Both
here.
have
10-8 for
improved.
Krella, 9-7 for Seiver.
Depending on Krella's sizing, Scott could easily find a raise here with this 9-7. Krella has used typically larger sizings, which might mean Scott ends up just calling. Krella has almost never checked in this situation from what we've seen. As Jesse, as you pointed out earlier, when he has the aggressive lead, he tends to keep it.
Yeah. As the 3-better pre-flop who got there.
I do think this hand is certainly strong enough to bet, and even bet on a medium to large size.
Oh my God, he jammed!
This is not a good size, though. This is a clear mistake.
Oh, wow.
Seiver's the covering stack, guys. He can click call and win his third.
Oh, wow.
This is a shocking size. It actually may work as a bluff.
Yeah, this was not intended as a bluff.
Here's the one
would
thing that I'm
imagine.
going to say, guys. Seiver knows the raw value of this 9-7 heads up, and he's going to look over at Krella and dress him down a little bit, as my guess, before he makes his decision.
This is
But
actually...
He
Sorry.
also perceives himself to be such a superior player in this heads up no limit deuce that he doesn't need to take the high variance spot here.
Sure, but part of being a great player is making the right decision in the moment, and Scott is very, very good at that. I am very surprised to see this size.
I'm going to take a second here.
Also, how many...
One of those, everything is screaming for me to fold, but I have a monster. But, you know.
Krella has to hate hearing that. He
Yeah.
thought his
My
hand was
instincts are
probably for
very
value
good,
at first.
and I should listen.
Almost definitely, Scott is letting him know the strength of his hand so he
Get a
can get a
It's
reaction.
really,
Couldn't
really
agree more.
interesting because you've really shown a very strong knowledge of this exact specific situation. Which means I can't possibly fold this one, and I just have to accept it. I'm sorry, 4-4 you said?
4.425.
There's 1-8 in there. It's so nice because of the exact situation for you to have, like, I mean, you just get to do this so often, betting me. If you know the spot on this. If you know the spot in that way, you're going to be overly value heavy here. That doesn't really matter to my hand. This is a shame. I don't think I can fold. I don't think I should fold. You were very fast on this one. You've never been very deliberate. Thinking about the pat hand where you took a little too long. I call.
10-8.
Wow.
Scott Seiver's won his third.
Sorry I took so long, just many people don't in this spot with that. That's why I said right away that I have a monster.
Well, Krella really impressed right up until he ran into the immovable object,
I mean,
the
a 9 is
unstoppable
brutal.
force
When
that has been
Jen's
Scott
there.
Seiver this summer at the World Series, boys.